Ready?
Hello and welcome to Rhythm and Pixels, a video game music podcast. This is episode number 20-5, and we're your hosts. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell. Oh, baby.
Oh, we're getting low, everybody. We're getting real low. Every week we listen to great video game music from the past and the present from all consoles, but mainly the bass parts.
I'm not sure what I was thinking about more so the present. Because
more of the present.
Because time travel is a very difficult process and it costs a lot of money to do.
Yeah, retro games are getting more and more expensive. But no, today is all about one system and one man. The Game Boy
Capitalism?
This is this episode is about the Game Boy Advance.
The Game Boy Advanced.
I can never figure that out.
Twice the advancement.
Game Boy Advance and Michael Bridgewater of the Forever Sound Version podcast.
Advance.
Michael Bridgewater Advance. MBA.
Hello there.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Rob Advance and Pernell Advance. Yeah,
I'm sticking with that.
It's been a minute.
It
Thanks
really
a lot
has.
for having me again.
Oh, thank you for
Absolutely.
coming on, man.
It's
And
been a
thanks-
long time coming.
And it was thank you for suggesting this topic too, because it's been a GBA is a weird box. Like there's a lot of games on it, but not as many as I remembered there being for one. And I came to realize while prepping for the show, though I kind of knew it from the retail days too, that this system, for all the good games it had, holy cow, it was a shovelware machine.
Yeah,
That's a
it's like
Nintendo
a
system.
magnet for shovelware, right?
That's just a Nintendo system, though, and I'm going to say that, not knowing any Nintendo system. So, Michael, tell us about the GBA, what it means to you, your experience with it.
So the Game Boy Advance is a system that actually constitutes the theme of my most recent episode on my podcast, Forever Sound Version. I covered a bunch of tunes from games like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, Sonic Advance, Mario Kart Super Circuit. You know, there's some really, really interesting compositions across the software library of the system. But it's not a system that I owned when it came out, actually. I didn't own a Game Boy Advance until relatively recently, so I kind of got a couple of them so I could play around with some music software like Nano Loop to make some like chiptune type stuff. But I did own a Nintendo DS the day that system came out.
Yes.
And of course that system can play Game Boy Advance games, which were a little bit cheaper than DS titles when the DS titles first started circulating. So I was getting familiar with the Game Boy Advance's software library through the Nintendo DS.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've got the original, because you know the original Nintendo DS was a kind of chunky affair. It was a little bit larger than the one that most people ended up having, right? So
Yeah.
I'm still using that to play DS games and the occasional Game Boy Advance game too.
Honestly, it's a good play. I mean, like mine broke at one point, and Rob actually gave me his old DS,
Yeah,
which is what I used to play Game Boy Advance games.
We used to get together and we would just play Nintendo DS games constantly, like as like a group, and we get other people together because it had that the downloading feature that you could do over the wire.
Yeah,
So I bought all the games, and everyone was like, "Let's just play."
We would just play them, and but even still, I only had like the little insert that was the placeholder for the Game Boy Advance games would go in, because I never actually played any Game Boy Advance games. I don't think I've ever played a Game Boy Advance game.
Is that right?
I don't think so.
Huh.
I've always wanted, except for the ones that were ported from the Super Nintendo, and even then, like I was super excited when I saw like, oh, the Game Boy Advance has like a Super Dodgeball and stuff like that, and I was like, that's pretty cool. Like I should get in on that, but never did.
I find this kind of funny that we're covering pretty much all three spectrums of Game Boy Advance ownership. Though I guess there could be considered a fourth one. But so Michael got it at the end of its life by playing it through the DS. Rob never played it at all.
No, sir.
And I got it at the very beginning. I got it as a launch system because I was all geeked for it. Oh my god, it's like a portable Super Nintendo. I have to get it.
I remember you had the
That's right.
Nintendo SP.
Yeah, I ended up eventually getting the NES P. I still have that too.
And that's just a Game Boy Advance that like folds up like an old school like phone, Nokia phone, right?
That's the one I've got. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing is wonderful.
It's like a clamshell thing, right?
Yeah, really clever design.
But it also taught me that the whole concept of clamshells is kind of jerkish. Like, people would always say, oh, it's a clamshell. That means it protects your system from dents and scratches. I've had actually 3 systems break while in their clamshell form. Because the screen shatters while it's clamshell. I'm like, because people used to tease me, it's like, you always get a carrying case for your systems. Why do you do that? The first time I was carrying the DS around, the zipper on my carrying case broke, and on the way to the store to replace it, the screen cracked.
Well, your portable game systems are truly portable. Like, you take them anywhere and everywhere.
Yes, I do. Switch is in the bag right now.
Yeah, it's always with you. You come here to play board games, and it's in the kitchen charging up.
That's right. I put time into my machines, man.
Well, let's first talk about a little bit about the hardware of the Game Boy Advance, why it sounds the way it does, how it sounds the way it does, and then let's listen to some music. Okay, so we have inside the Game Boy Advance is dual 8-bit DAC for stereo called Direct Sound, plus all the legacy channels from the Game Boy Color. So the new channels can be used to play back streams of wave data, or could be used to output multiple wave samples processed and mixed in software by the CPU. This is really important because there's no dedicated audio processor, which means that the same processor used for the gameplay and for the video and for the graphics is also used for the sound. So that means if they did not budget any kind of CPU cycles for the music, they had to downsample everything before it got pushed out of the speakers. And that's and so we're hearing a lot of great composition sounding like kind of staticky, kind of lame, because it was just super compressed because the hardware just wasn't budgeted to do it. So developers could use a mix of Game Boy Color sounds and Game Boy audio sounds, like on the Genesis, right? They would use like the old school Sega Master System like channels with like the FM synthesis channels.
Yeah.
And they could use that to maximize the efficiency because the Game Boy Color was just pulse waves. But not many people did that, except for certain games that were amazing examples of that, like Drill Dozer.
So they use that technique.
Yeah, and that's why it sounds so good.
The best OSTs on that system.
And also, we'll notice, and maybe even today we'll notice, that some of the titles that were European developed, a lot of stuff from Germany, is going to sound really good because a lot of those composers are from the demo scene and they're used to working with limitations on the Amiga. And so they had a bit of a leg up doing that, writing their own sound drivers and sound sets for the hardware. And in a lot of cases, as we're finding even today, that a lot of the music and a lot of the sounds were uploaded. They were put onto the cart in like uncompressed format or a format that was less compressed, but because of the limitations of the CPU, it was compressed on the way out. So we're finding that some people on YouTube, if you go out and look for it, they're actually able to download the sound sets and download the sound files from the Game Boy cartridges and play them back at a much higher quality. That isn't always the case, but we're finding it more and more.
It always leaves me wondering if that's the case. Then, if someone were to say rip a Game Boy, rip a Game Boy Advance game and then play it on an emulator that doesn't have the limitations that the actual console had, would they actually play the full quality sound on the emulator?
I don't know much about Game Boy Advance emulation. Do you have any experience?
Yes, I have emulated Game Boy Advance titles a fair bit, and I could be wrong, but I believe the emulator I'm using is a true emulator insofar as it also emulates the deficiencies on the way out.
Right.
Which maybe it would be cool if there was like a tick box option to disable that. If it would maybe give you a different experience if you want something in the way of more of a like a hi-fi sonic experience. But from what I remember, yeah, it does come out a little bit on the rough side on the emulation too.
So I just wanted to give that preface because I feel like the Game Boy Advance only has a specific sound because most of the developers didn't really put enough care or did not budget for the sound quality on the way out. Otherwise, the Game Boy Advance doesn't really have its own signature sound. Or shouldn't anyway.
I honestly feel like back then, even though game composition, as we all know, has been obviously always been a concern for a lot of just the actual composers themselves, I would say it wasn't until I want to say 2000, 5 or maybe even a little after that, that there became like a huge like interest in like people outright discussing soundtracks and music to the point where like people were actually lauding, hey, this game has this composer on it. We put a lot of work into the sound on this game, like actually hyping it up as part of the features for the game itself.
Actually, yeah, it wasn't until Rhythm and Pixels started that people really started to pay attention to soundtracks and music.
You are responsible.
Yeah. Oh, mercy.
Well, let's start with some great music. Michael, why don't you kick us off? Do you have the tracks in front of you?
I do, yes. All right. So
you're at the
my
control.
first pick, yes, I'm in the booth, and I am picking some music from what I believe is the second F-Zero title to be released on the Game Boy Advance, and that is called F-Zero Climax, which came out in 2004. And the track I'm going with is Red Canyon. Composer is Kenji Hikita.
The track Red Canyon from the game F-Zero Climax for the Game Boy Advance, composed by Kenji Hikita. And I gotta say, just a little behind the scenes for our listeners, I like the notes you put in the Google Doc. I love that you put like little like what you liked about each track. And this one is thrashy riff. I love the
thrash.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, no doubt. It's got that pace and the sort of the implicit palm muting thing with the guitar.
Yeah.
It's like a yeah, like a Metallica sort of thing.
Yeah, sort of like
make
each note really distinct and then do it super, super fast. Yeah. I really like that.
Yeah, right. So I'm into that, and it's kind of supplemented by those like orchestra hit sounds, which to me sounds just like 90s arcade titles, like Konami games or something. So it just sounds like fast and there's some serious attitude going on,
And it's interesting that
It turns out I was wrong, right? Like, this is not the second F-Zero game on the Game Boy Advance, but the third, is that right?
Yeah, so apparently on launch, there was F-Zero Maximum Velocity. That's the one I actually ended up purchasing, and believe it or not, it is the first actual F-Zero experience I ever had.
Oh, no kidding.
I couldn't get into the SNES one. It just didn't click for me visually, so I immediately dismissed it after like one race on like the first track in the game.
Yeah, my cousin had that, and I used to go over and babysit for him, and I would just play it all the time. Shout outs.
Then the second track, shout outs
to Mikey. What's up, Mikey? If he's listening, I don't know.
The second track is from the second game was called F-Zero GP Legend, where if I recall, I think it was either a remake of the first F-Zero, or it was a focus on more of a focus on Captain Falcon. Like why, I don't know, because there's like a weird memory because I didn't mess with that one. But then apparently the one you just chose from, F-Zero Climax, came out in Japan and only Japan, which is why I've never heard of it until you brought it up on the show today.
What I find really interesting is after the thrash guitar comes in, there's a little bit of like a melody that's coming through, and it's super reminiscent of classic Super Nintendo F-Zero. It sounds like I can't even think of it. Maybe it's wasn't there like a canyon something from the first F-Zero?
I think it was Red Canyon.
Was it called Red Canyon? Maybe that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
It's something about like those notes that are like do 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 do.
Because they reuse location names. Like I know F-Zero X on the was it N64, that had Red Canyon on it too. So and also had one of the best darn F-Zero themes for that stage. So.
Yeah, I never played the 64 one. It looks really fast.
It is.
Super fast.
But after playing the one on the GameCube, that's nothing.
Yeah.
The GameCube one took what I thought could be fast in racing games and just blew it out of the water. It's insanely quick. Like, you can get motion sick playing that game easily.
Well, it's good that you started this episode off, Michael, with thrashing guitars and orchestra hits. I mean, no, it's not not a first for the show, but it's always good to like start with it because those are two things I love.
Yeah, well, I think I've got time for him as well. It kind of that combination. I suppose I've got myself thinking along these lines now. You know that live album that Metallica did with the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the sort of Game Boy Advance equivalent of that. So,
it's Metallica and like a guy like on an old like DX like whatever Yamaha keyboard like going dun, dun, dun,
yeah,
dun.
like stabbing the buttons. Yeah, just like that.
Out of curiosity, like during the time you did spend with the GBA, can you think of like any particular favorite titles from the machine, or?
My favorite game on the system is Metroid Fusion, probably. But that's largely down to the simple fact that one of my favorite games of all time is Super Metroid, and Metroid Fusion plays rather a lot like Super Metroid. Yeah. So it just felt like more of what I already really loved. Maybe it wasn't quite as... maybe not quite in the same league as Super Metroid in terms of the free exploration aspect especially, but I don't know, I just loved that I could have more of my favourite game on a handheld even. Yeah. You know, that was really wild for me.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, like, if I remember correctly, when that one came out, there was people were giving it a lot of guff because of they were focused more on the narrative in regards
really?
to... Yeah, because... It was like Michael said, Super Metroid still felt more Metroid open. Even though they had an intention for where they wanted you to go in the game, it felt like you were finding that out yourself, and the exploration felt more apparent. Whereas in the Metroid Fusion, for like the first, I want to say almost 3/4 of the game, you're kind of being guided by narrative. Like, you need to go unlock this door, you need to unlock this elevator shaft. And then you had those cool moments where like the other Samus suit was like chasing you around or something like that.
That's awesome.
But like
that's right.
So I think it's cool. I like that they'll that, especially in sequels, the idea of taking an original idea and expanding on it with more drama, essentially, especially when it wasn't always there.
But it's interesting.
That's basically what it was, Rob. Yeah, I mean, there's a real. I think it kind of doubled down on what many perceive to be like a Ridley Scott influence on the Metroid series. You know how it's obviously it's like an alien world and like horror is just around the corner, sort of thing. Yeah. I think with being led into certain rooms to accomplish certain micro goals to survive, it does feel genuinely quite sinister. And maybe that wouldn't have been as possible had it been the open thing that Super Metroid was. I mean, to a lesser extent, maybe. I don't know.
It kind of created its own genre, too. But let's go on to Purnell's first track.
Oh, why gotta be me?
Because it's an odd-numbered episode.
You and your rules. Your rules.
It really helps me to sleep at night. No, it really helps me to keep things together.
I actually ended up going a little weird this episode, so...
I like your picks. I didn't listen to all of them yet, but like they're all over the place.
So like, I guess I'm not gonna use them all because I always pick way too many. But I am gonna pick just from nice ones. So the first one is a little lighter on the light side. This game is called Bomberman Tournament, and the track is just the forest overworld environment. And the composers are Koichi, Seiyama, and Jun Chikuma. Welcome back. You're listening to the playful, exciting, friendly, and fun Forest Overworld tune from the game Bomberman Tournament on the Game Boy Advance, composed by Koichi, Seiyama, and Jun Chikuma.
You're saying that because during the track, I was remarking about how sad this sounded. It was very nostalgic, very like lost love, grade school prom night kind of thing.
I can see the nostalgia element, but more on the lighter side, like going out with your friends in the woods and fishing and eating carp and finding secret tunnels in the woods, stepping on bugs and getting stung by a bee, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So like this, well, first of all, I love the music in this game and this track in particular, but one thing about this game that always kind of surprised me is that when it came out, like I said, as the title says, it was called Bomberman Tournament. Why they called it that, I have no idea. If anything, it should have been called something like Bomberman Adventure.
Were they focusing on the multiplayer at all?
Quite possibly, but I think it does the game a disservice because this game was pretty much done to be like if Bomberman and Utopia had a baby. Utopia was the Zelda-like franchise that ran on the TurboGrafx-16 back in the 90s.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So this is basically Bomberman.
Also, an amazing soundtrack.
Yes.
I love that music.
So good.
So good.
So, like, this game is basically Bomberman walking around the Utopia world. And he's bombing his way into dungeons, and he's going to shops and buying gear.
So it's like Bomberman with the Bomberman... The Bomberman. The Bomber.
Put the bomb in the Bomberman.
The Bomberman
ball with the ball, man.
the ball with the ball. With those game mechanics, but in an adventure world, like in a game adventure kind of game.
Yes,
that's cool.
And I liked it a lot. And they had like a little homage even there. Like there's a theme that plays when you go into the homes. And that theme pays homage to Newtopia because there's sounds from the Newtopia house theme in the track in this game too.
Oh, very cool.
But I thought this would be like a good track to throw on the show because I've been getting real nostalgic with the Game Boy Advance over the last 2 weeks in preparation for this episode. It's been swell.
It's nice to look back on it.
Yeah.
I have an important question for Michael though. In the world of Bomberman, what is your favorite power up, if you could think of one?
There's only one.
Favorite power up?
Yeah.
There's only one.
The croquet mallet, right? Where you kind of knock the bombs down the lanes.
Yeah.
I love how I love how overseas it's like it's not a shoe, it's a croquet mallet.
That's what it looks like to me. I'm thinking of Super Bomberman on the SNES.
Yeah, no, me too. Right? I think we all looked
that's
at
what
it
looks like.
As kids, we were like, "Oh, that's a boot. You got the boot, right?"
I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to see it that way again. I think it's going to be a croquet mallet.
All right, so
let me check. I'm going to check out what it looks like.
Could be, and it very well could be.
Know.
I mean, it's only like 8x8 pixels. Who knows? But no, what's the best one?
I love how I said it can only be one, but in truth, there's like two that I always toss between. And there
right.
are one, the obvious choice that a lot of people will choose, which is the remote mine, which is when you can detonate the bomb whenever you want. Of course, if you don't have any flame, then what the heck's the point? So you do need to juice it up.
Was that the jelly mine in the Super Nintendo?
Oh, God, no. I hate the jelly bomb unless I just want to hate everybody. Because you throw the jelly bomb and it just bounces around.
Yeah,
you can't predict it.
That was
Pure chaos.
That was my jam.
But
jelly bomb.
So the detonator, again, is like the easy fit. But, again, if there's not a lot of power in your bombs, it's kind of But the glove, not the boxing glove, but the actual pickup glove.
Yes.
That, especially in multiplayer, is the real jerk power, because if you start the match off and get a glove, just turn around, throw the bomb over the wall, and trap the guy while he's trying to dig his way out and start the stage.
You get like a real Mexican standoff situation where like you face against your opponent, and suddenly you can pick up a bomb and they can't, and you're just like staring them down, and like, you better run.
Chasing them down like, yeah! Like I am notoriously the jerk of my friend circle for Bomberman. Like, I'm horrible.
Yeah, I don't think I'll play that game with you.
Can't catch me, I'm the Bomberman. Running as fast as I can.
I can confirm that it really does look like a boot rather than a croquet mallet. So I'm the idiot here. But,
no,
I think the truth is that they actually did make it like a croquet mallet over there.
If you said it,
you didn't realize.
If you said it was a cricket bat, I would think that there was some weird localization going on.
That's what they should have done.
I'm still under the belief that may have been weird localization. We're all just succumbing to it right now.
All right, so
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so my first track, I'm going off on a completely different direction because I never realized that one of these sequels was released for the Game Boy Advance, and now I'm really excited about it. This is the intermission music from the game Zone of Enders, The Fist of Mars. Because Zone of Enders I was kind of into on the PS2. It was one of those earlier titles. But the music I was obsessed with. Absolutely obsessed with the music. And this is on the Game Boy Advance, composed by Tatsuya Fujiwara, Susumu Nakamura. You're listening to Intermission from the game Zone of Enders, Fist of Mars, composed by Tatsuya Fujiwara and Susumu Nakamura for the Game Boy Advance. And you would be right along with us if you were confused and thought this maybe came from Ridge Racer for the PlayStation. But yeah, it sounds, what's that, Hideki Naganuma or Okugawa? I think it was Naganuma. This is just, it's like the pads are smooth and buttery, and there's little skittery drums. They're kind of like, it's butter, man.
Tell you, you're back on it. You're back on that food descriptive. What does this sound like? It's got a bit of a buttery taste, but there's a dash of crunch.
Ooh, it's creamy and sweet, like a chocolate ice cream.
It's like a very specific kind of synesthesia, isn't it? Like,
it's like just guy.
It tastes like it sounds.
But it's these kinds of drums where it's like this kind of like real fast, real like syncopated and cut up like amen breaks, but like they're really high up there, and they just sort of like tickle like your ears on top of everything else going on. And then once that little like synth thing comes on, like this is everything I love about like futuristic 90s music, you know?
It also just makes me think, just again, how like just hearing it from the headphones right now and how well it's mitigating itself between the different channels. I can imagine hearing this on the actual Game Boy with headphones on. Because I would not have expected this. This sounds really good to be coming off of a Game Boy.
No, I really wanted to find some good examples of music on the Game Boy Advance that came out, good. And then from all
not like yours.
Well, I mean, like imagine like okay, you have your Game Boy Advance and it's 2000 whatever, and you're playing
2000 next
2000 late, and you're playing Super Mario or something, and you're like everything's kind of gritty, kind of pushed through the speakers, and then you put this game in, and it sounds like completely different.
I'm gonna go with that for sure. Again, this is one, I didn't even know this game. Again, I didn't know about this game's existence until you brought up on the show. And I went and looked up. This would have been totally up my alley. So if I had actually bought this game back then and heard the music playing through the speakers, I'd have been in happy town.
Yeah, I think that the developers probably left all of the computer cycles for those pads and the bass. And then they used, I think for that synthesizer sound, they used the Game Boy channels for those kind of beepy sounds. But I think that helped them maybe save some cycles during these sections. And also, if it's an intermission, there's probably not a whole lot going on. Maybe it's a lot of story.
Yeah, there's something in that. I mean, this is this sort of drum and bass style. It's of that kind of specific kind where it's almost like a cross between drum and bass and like chill out music.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
it's got the real, like you say, like frenetic drums, but they're kind of canopied, so they're not really pummeling you. And then you have these really slow, like texture carried things underneath. Just makes you feel, even though it's going a mile a minute, it somehow feels sort of dreamy for it.
Yeah, totally.
It's just really nice.
Your
With
head
regard
starts to
to
bob to like your head starts to bob like on the quarter notes instead of like those crazy like eighth notes and 16s.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah, and it is so crisp. Like, I think it's worth mentioning that it seems like a fairly unlikely format for demo scene stuff, the Game Boy Advance. But it's true. Like, some composers and some coders have made some productions on it, and part of the challenge, I guess, is to make things sound as sharp as they can. Like I was just showing Rob earlier. There's a demo by the famous Swedish Amiga group Uprough called Uprough City on the Game Boy Advance, and it's a sort of John Carpenter inspired thing with like a really sort of like quasi futuristic thing going on, and a really, really nice soundtrack. And yeah, my friend Brendan, also known as Scythus, from Newcastle, he did the music on that thing. So
cool. Yeah,
if any listeners want to check out some really high-end Game Boy Advance demo scene that has a similar sort of sound world up to a point to this kind of thing, then yeah, Uprough City. I mean, it's on YouTube, so it's quite easy to find.
Honestly, I gotta say, now I had this whole like thought in my mind about how to describe this track, and like now I just feel like I'm just flubbing words. I'm like, it has an apple crisp start, but it kind of runs through a nice smooth marmalade whirl, and then it comes out with a marshmallow fluff finish that makes me feel, I don't know, kind of Hershey's.
I agree with everything you just said about this track. I was saying that I almost chose a track from the game That's So Raven over this one because the beats were just as interesting, but they were super crunchy, and it had like this kind of like this hip hop / R&B of this like early 2000s era, where it sounded like what was that music from Charlie's Angels? All the ladies and something.
Yeah. That's all you. I don't recognize
Child,
it, but
right?
that's good.
What's that? It was like Christina Aguilera and like Missy Elliott.
I think it was Destiny's Child on
Destiny's
that.
Wait, you
was
guys talking
Destiny's
about the Charlie's Angels movie?
Yeah, when that came out.
Oh, okay, so I'm like, what are you talking about?
So like it's so beat heavy, and the music just sounds like it's just right from that movie. It's really clever.
It got me to thinking just now too. I don't know why I only just thought about this, but it makes me wonder how many like hidden treasure OSTs are out there. And I say that because the Game Boy Advance was when a number of composers were just getting their start, and they were getting their start on licensed game properties.
Yeah, that's
true. So even though the games themselves were being churned out just to get that child money, the composers were trying to get paid, and they were trying to flex their chops at the same time. So they were putting out masterful work.
The composer that we had on the show for Magical Time Bean, who developed and composed for Escape Goat and Escape Goat 2, he started on the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance doing like Harry Potter games and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I know like Vert did like the Smurfs.
Yeah, Vert did a lot of that stuff too, and even if you go back even further, like Alberto Jose Gonzalez.
Oh, he was all like Looney Tunes and stuff,
Looney
right?
Tunes and the Smurfs and stuff.
Asterix,
Asterix, Obelix.
Blows me away.
Obelix,
It's
never
making
figured
me.
that out.
It's going to make me have to change my entire way of outlooking at some of this stuff because, like, this episode's a little different. But typically, I only pick tracks from games I've played. And when I start delving into these other titles, it has a weird effect, like Cartoon Network Matchland effect, I'll call it.
Yeah, you weren't expecting like this amazing soundtrack from Norin Rad.
Yeah. And then I make myself play the game to mix the results, but I'm like, the music is what makes me play the game. So I'm like, I have to experience this now that I want to hear more of the music. I can't just listen to the music and walk away.
Absolutely. There's a lot of good stuff. We need to do an iOS or like an Android or some kind of mobile phone episode. There's a lot of great indie stuff.
It's funny you say that because, and I'm going to mention this because I think it's worth bringing up. So before Michael stated he wanted to do GBA, which was a tie back to his episode when I was like, oh, we got to totally do GBA. I didn't know we had a topic. So the thought I had was going to be quote unquote rubbish game.
Oh.
And obviously it would have to start with a disclaimer saying no game is rubbish as long as someone likes it.
Yeah, I would be a little nervous to name an episode that.
But that's the joke, and that's why you put
Yeah.
it in quotation marks and not just leave it as it is. But the idea is just that you pick tracks from games that you yourself probably don't like, but the music itself is just really good.
We did that with the Pixel Tunes radio podcast, where it was like great music and bad games.
Yeah.
And I picked from Bebe's Kids. But anyway, so let's move on to our second track from Michael Bridgewater for the Game Boy Advance.
All right. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to keep things rolling in this similar sound world. Actually,
Oh,
something
I'm
kind
all
of
about
jungle-esque.
Yes.
I'm going with a track from the game Ace Combat Advance, and this is an in-game tune. I don't have a title. I only have BGM number 2. Ace Combat Advance was released 2005, and the composer is a Hungarian composer called András Kövér.
Listening to Background Music 2 from the game Ace Combat Advance for the Game Boy Advance, composed by András Kövér. And yeah, this has got the jungle beat to it, but then it gets into like a kind of, James Bond style thing towards the end here.
It kind of does, yeah. It's that kind of chromatic descending. Yeah, something like that. Even though you're flying a plane rather than sneaking around.
Yeah, so for some reason it reminds me of the Desert Strike games. That had that kind of like.
Desert Strike were helicopter games.
Yeah,
right?
helicopters. Yeah, but I'd imagine
That's
that kind of
right,
like slower pace, kind of like sneaking up on things, even though you're a giant helicopter blowing up, tanks and stuff.
Giant helicopter. I just feel like this Godzilla helicopter just flying around. Look out! It's gonna destroy us all.
I say giant, but like a helicopter's not small. It's like
That is true.
it's at least twice my size, right?
It's carrying a lot of weapons, so it's got to be pretty big.
Maybe 3. Let's go with 3 times. Or something.
3 times my size.
3 times.
3 times my size, and it's shooting multiple Rob Nichols.
No, it's shooting other helicopters.
Arm the torpedoes and put me in the second.
And you just like when he fires you off, you're just like doing like beatboxing on your way up.
Yeah. So here we go with the with kind of like the crisper sounding synthesizers, but with super chunky drums. Like they really wanted to sample that entire drum break, didn't they?
I think so, yeah.
The whole
but
thing.
you said you kind of pointed out that it still has a little bit of noise behind the whole thing, so it's almost as if it is like a really old, neglected, crackly like jungle 12-inch single, right?
It really is. Like so way back in the day when I was doing tracker music and stuff, like in high school, I would sample small keyboard sounds from like my little Yamaha keyboards and stuff, and I would sequence those, and so they would sound super clear. But I wasn't good at programming drums and sequencing drums, so I would sample like entire like drum loops and like squish them and compress them so they were like really crunchy, and then I would play them and loop those. And so when you play back the music, it sounded a lot like this, where like everything else sounded kind of like decent and the bass sounded bassy, but then like the drums would come in and it would just be all like a really all like crunchy and stuff. So if you just took the drums out of this, it would probably sound really clear, but I think it lent it. Like it sounds like a vinyl crackle. It sounds authentic, which is in an odd way.
Yeah, keep those drums in there. I actually prefer that. The overall sound was just.
It's a cool
it was
sound,
quality.
right? Yeah.
And that second loop is when it really kicked in for me.
Yeah. You were like, whoa, wait a minute, leave it going.
Yeah, there's more energy kicking off on this thing.
Yeah.
Shoot down
I'm
some
wondering,
bogeys to this.
Do either of you have much experience with the Ace Combat games?
Not at all. I don't even know what. I'm assuming it's planes, but
Fighter jets. I have no personal experience, so to speak. It's one of those franchises where I've had friends who have tried to convince me to start the series, and I keep saying, "Oh yeah, I should really do that," and then I don't, and then I'll end up playing some other like flying game, like Flying Tigers or something, and all the while someone's like, "You're playing Flying Friggin' Tigers, and you're not playing Ace Combat 6. What is wrong with you?" I'm
Really?
like, I don't know.
it's a weird thing to be elitist about.
Right.
I think it's less about elitist and more like, it's that thing where someone's like, "Hey, you totally got to try this. You have to try this." And you're like, "I'll get around to it. You keep kicking the can, and then the guy hears you, "I'm playing this cool game. What are you playing? "I'm playing this similar but lower budget game that came out last week that you've never told me about before." What? What have I been telling you? I think it's less about elitism. It's just more like, "Oh, come on, you just sidestep years of recommendations from this game." In which case, I'm like, "Oh, I'll get around to it." But it's gotta be a fantastic franchise, though. It's been around for ages.
It has been. How about you, Michael? Have you played this one at all?
I haven't played Ace Combat Advance. It's kind of on my mental to-do list, I suppose. Although it does look quite a lot different to the Ace Combat games I am familiar with, because it kind of employs something of a top-down view, almost like Desert Strike, incidentally.
Oh, cool.
But Ace Combat 3. I think it's called Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere on the PS1. That's a game I'm pretty familiar with, and it's kind of interesting for how it occupies this middle ground between being an afterburner style arcade flight combat game and like a flight sim that's got loads of intricate controls. It's somewhere in the middle between those two, so it's possible to stall the plane as you're fighting, for instance. You gotta keep an eye on certain things. Yeah, it's really annoying when that happens.
That sounds frustrating.
But that game's also got an awesome soundtrack, though. I don't remember the composers, but Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere, it's a similar sort of drum and bass by way of chill out that you were playing before. So maybe I should do an episode on that at some point.
Oh, I would love that. Do you know if the other Ace Combat games are also they all developed in the same like company or?
It's Namco, I think.
Is it on Namco? Oh.
It's definitely Namco.
Because it's just interesting to see a Western name on a Namco title.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that, but yeah, this guy, he's got a handful of video game music credits, but I think most of his career centers around like making music for like TV commercials and things like that. Okay. He has a website, András Kövér's website's notebender.hu, which is a Hungarian like domain suffix. There's some examples of some music he's done for adverts and things like that, so I don't know why he did the music, but I'm kind of happy he did, though. It's a nice piece.
Yeah, that's good. All right, Pernell, what's your second track?
Well, this is a weird one. Going back to what I mentioned earlier about Game Boy Advance popping out shovelware like gangbusters, I came across this track today. Not even today, I say a couple days ago, because I've been really nostalgic for stuff. And this one hit me surprisingly hard for a show that I didn't really even watch a ton of. I just knew of it, and I loved the theme song to it. So this track comes from the game Hi Hi Puffy AmiYumi Kaznapped, and the track is for the America stage, and it's composed by Tomoyoshi Sato. welcome back. You're listening to the theme for the America stage from the game Hi Hi Puffy AmiYumi, Kaznapped, the Game Boy Advance composed by Tomoyoshi Sato. This track is from a game that I have never played, but I'm probably going to this weekend, and because I want to play the game that this track spawns from. Now, I did watch some videos of the gameplay itself.
A platformer?
Yeah, it's a platformer where you switch between Ami and Yumi, and pretty much, I don't know. Let Rob take it away from here.
Okay, so Ami and Yumi, they're rock stars. They just got back from a world tour concert and decided to take a break. And so Kaz, who is their, I think it's their manager.
He's their manager.
Their manager, like their little manager guy, asks them why they aren't making new songs. And Ami and Yumi respond by telling them they were tired. Then Harmony, I guess is another character, came walking in and asking AmiYumi to play in another concert, and they again claimed that they were tired. So Harmony hypnotizes Kaz, kidnaps him, while Ami and Yumi were stuck to the ground by a giant lollipop that Harmony threw. And then their cats, Jang Kang and Takirai, come and lick them free, and Ami and Yumi start a new journey to rescue their manager Kaz. So the game was so in Japan. The game is just Hi Hi Puffy AmiYumi, which is the name of the show. This is Cartoon Network.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So the band was just called Puffy, which is who the two characters were originally. They were basically taking their band personas and throwing them into a cartoon.
And it ran for a while. This game actually got pretty high ratings through IGN.
Really?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's pretty cool. Things happen when I Google stuff during the show.
And honestly, I did like the cartoon itself, because it's weird. It's one of those cartoons where it just happens and you watch it and you enjoy it. But I was also older at this point, so the memory wasn't kicking as much. So, and I just enjoyed it, because all I do remember is that there were live sequences where the two singers would come on and they would talk. It's sort of English. He was just hey, we're talking, we're at festival eating ice cream. Ice cream is delicious. Listen to the music. And then they listen to the music, and then it goes to the episode title, and they'll just have a show. And it's interesting because these two are the first instance that I can recall of the sweet and sour pairing, so to speak. Ami was the cute, sweet one, and Yumi was the hard rocker. And then other things have made use of that over the years since then too. Splatoon does it.
It's been done so much before. In Metallica, we had Hetrick and Ulrich. You had
Lars Ulrich.
Yeah. You had the sweet and the sour.
Sweet Ulrich.
Yeah, why not?
Now you got me thinking, now I'm asking what I've missed back in the day. I know about these two. I know about the Gianna Sisters when they revived the Gianna Sisters brand. But that was from that old knockoff. It was the same concept. You have the sweet and the sour, hard rocker, and the sweet girl. And the Splatoon sisters, one was sweet, one was a hard rocker.
Bren and Stimpy, one was sweet, one was gross.
Yeah, but it's not so much sour. They were just gross. One was a businessman.
Well,
the other was just dopey.
So you can switch between the two during the game?
Yes. So the Ami had, the sweet girl had the double jump, and she had a whip that was actually her microphone cord that could let her swing across chasms and such. And Yumi was the tough rocker who had a guitar that could smash blocks, and she had an air dash. So when you're running around the map, every once in a while you would come across fans of your music act, and you don't fight them. Instead, you play music for them, calm them down. Otherwise, they mob you and do damage.
Oh, jeez.
Such an interesting concept.
You gotta worry about those fans, Michael. Those podcast fans. They can be violent.
Oh no, they're hammering the door of the studio down as I speak.
Quick, play my riff, and I'm taking my cell phone. It's Secret of Mine. It's I got nothing.
This is my recommendation for you.
I have no experience of encountering this cartoon series that you're alluding to here. This is completely new to me, so I'm gonna have to check this out. Do you think it's something I would enjoy?
It's hard to say. I'm the type of guy where I'll say, when it comes to shows like this, I say it's less about going into it saying, I expect a quality cartoon filled with heartwarming lessons and this sort of cartoon, it's light and buttery. There you go. It's light and buttery. You go into it knowing you're going to watch some cartoon kids getting the stupid antics, like getting stuck to a giant lollipop for no reason.
I'm going to guess that it's like the classic Cartoon Network cartoons where it's probably most enjoyable now as an adult enjoying an adult beverage, in the evening, in the late evening, being like, wow, this is really silly stuff, and having a good time.
That's
my sort of cartoon as well. I mean, Cartoon Network, we had some semblance of it in the UK that I'd watch at my granddad's house, and I remember stuff like Two Stupid Dogs, I think, was on there.
Oh, that show was so weird.
I loved it.
I mean, the sillier the better, basically, right?
For some reason, the episode that I most remember about Two Stupid Dogs was the one where they was like a Hansel and Gretel house for some reason. Mm-hmm. And at the end, the grandma actually eats everyone. The little girl with the glasses, both of the dogs, and they're all on her stomach at the end. It's like, the end. It's like, why is this entertainment? Why is this so ridiculous?
I think the animator from Dexter's Laboratory and Samurai Jack first worked on that show.
Genndy Tartakovsky, I think his very first show was Powerpuff Girls. That was his,
I love that one.
That was his bread and butter, that put him on the map. I want to say Dexter's Lab was also that was the second one he did. Samurai Jack was like his magnum opus.
Yeah, Samurai Jack. I was reading an interview with him, and he talked about how that was an opportunity for him to tell a story and do it in a way that he actually believed, like everything he really wanted to do, and actually put it out there. And then he's done some like other things like for movies recently, and now he's got a new one coming out called like Prehistory or something, where it's about cavemen and dinosaurs, and it's supposed to be crazy violent.
What's a new cartoon?
Yeah, it's a new animated series, Purnell.
Oh,
it's a graphic novel, Purnell.
Of course, yes.
They're action figures, Purnell.
Oh, mercy. I gotta say that, like, for that to be like his first foray into like storytelling animation, Samurai Jack hit so many notes for people.
In the interview, he said that they did like an hour-long or 2-hour-long movie to finish the series, and I had no idea there was an ending to the show, that there was actually a cap to the story.
Yeah,
and now I'm really interested in going out and finding that.
I've never seen the ender, but I've seen mixed opinions because it's come up in like various conversations in regards to like, I feel like this show didn't do justice to the story they were telling up to this point. But I also feel like I'm in that bubble where I feel like a lot of people just genuinely have difficulty accepting closure to a show they've grown to love over years. And it's not even an insult or smudge. No, I'm the same way. That's why I don't even finish half of my games, believe it or not. Like, I'll get to the end and stop at like the final save point or the final dungeon entrance because I'm myself saying, we went on this awesome journey together. I'd rather just play through my head how it wraps up because I don't know if they'll actually do it justice for what I'd want to see.
It's true. I do understand that it doesn't end well. And if you ever watch the show, it can't end well. I mean, it shouldn't anyway. If it were to have any, not realism, but just...
to carry the weight that the show was setting up.
The tone of the story, yeah. Anyway, so my final track, and we had to throw one of these tracks in the game. This is from... I lost my tracks. This is from Castlevania Aria of Sorrow for the Game Boy Advance. This track is called The Purgatory Arena, composed by Michiru Yamane for the Game Boy Advance.
2, 3, 4. Okay. This is really cool, though.
5, 4, 5, 4, 1, 3. This you're listening to. This is
you're listening to two grown men count.
Yeah, this is the Purgatory Arena from Castlevania Aria of Sorrow for the Game Boy Advance, composed by Michiru Yamane. And I never really played any of these. It was this Igarashi? Is that his name?
Oh, is this Koji Igarashi?
Koji Igarashi?
And I'm sure I probably got that darn wrong. My darn
No,
self, but
I know
we'll
that.
see.
I know that's right because I was just recently listening to a podcast called Retronauts where they're talking about Bloodstained, something of something.
I'm just so used to Iga that his first name just kind of got lost in time for me. But I think it is Koji Igarashi.
Igarashi.
But
And
yeah,
so-
his last game was Order of Ecclesia, so this definitely would have fallen under that.
Right. And so, yeah, a lot of these games really really refined what the genre is as far as Metroidvania goes.
Yeah, because this was the first one where they decided to give you enemy abilities because they decided to flip the script and make it so that you weren't playing as a Belmont, you were actually playing as Dracula in this game, in a sense. So, like, you weren't Dracula in the purest sense, you were like Dracula's soul in a vessel, and you were trying to prevent yourself from being reborn. It was an interesting premise, but regardless of how bizarre it was, what it did mean for gameplay was that you could kill monsters and take their souls and use their souls as power-ups. So
It's like a crafting system, like with like, or you just collect them and use it to power things up.
you just collect them and use them. Honestly,
okay.
I don't even know if I wonder how this would have done with something like crafting. I feel like Castlevania, at least, or the Metroidvania style games that we've come to get used to from Iga, it's hard to picture how they would flow if crafting was a primary element to gameplay. Like, it's one thing if it's like a little side bit, but as a primary, I think it was slow gameplay down a bit. I wonder how people would take to it.
There's a lot of crafting in the new game, isn't there? In the new Bloodstained
There is.
Igarashi game.
But it's more like it's another like sort of a side thing. Like, you can
Right.
do it if you want. Otherwise, it's just, I got 50 of this crystal, which means this crystal is 50 times stronger. Or finding items and giving them to people, but as they sit down and go, I can combine these things and get a French bread pizza. It's there, but even then, I guess it may just as well be more like collect a bunch of stuff, and when you go to the guide, just see what's available to you and just like dump it all out.
Right.
But honestly, this is still probably my favorite of the 3DS, DS, Castlevania games. I just liked how it created that new shape and gameplay style. I think it was also the first Castlevania game to let you get a gun, oddly enough.
Interesting. Well, then I have a question for Michael then. Is it gonna, for you, whips or swords?
Oh, I like the whips, Rob.
Yeah.
That's where I am with this. That said, I'm not the most familiar with the Castlevania franchise, actually. I mean, what I have played out of Castlevania, I've always really enjoyed, but I think I've always been more on the Metroid side of the Metroidvania coin.
Sure.
But this game's firmly on my list. I mean, in another spell of heroic, frantic googling, I understand that this game, the quality of the music on this game has a lot to do with perceived negative reaction of the
Harmony of
previous
Dissonance.
titles.
Yep.
Yeah, so they really tried to improve the audio quite a lot for this one, right?
Yeah.
which is, compositionally, I mean, it's very interesting, and this track is very complex. There's a few composers on this game, Michiru Yamane being one of them, who really defined the sound of Castlevania since Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation. And so I really wanted to choose a track from her because I just love that sound, that kind of like crazy Baroque, but also kind of rockin' kind of sound.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it sort of goes between. We were trying to count before, weren't we? It's sort of from what I can tell, it's like a mix of 5/8 and 6/8, so it gives it a real unsettling, like frantic kind of edge to it.
Yeah.
That's smart choice.
Yeah, and it's in an area called the Purgatory Arena. I mean,
Ooh.
I
I don't want to go there.
I know that like frantic and like stress-inducing music is like one of like Purnell's like things, but I wonder if like this doesn't immediately say stressful, but because it's so complicated, I wonder if like it gives you that feeling in the background without even noticing,
I guess it kind of
like
does.
subliminally like making you stressed out during the level.
Well, I feel like it could be one of those tracks because it's been so long that I don't even remember what the Purgatory Arena played like. But what I can say is that I can picture this track being the sort of thing where if the on-screen action was elevated enough, this track would be the finishing touch to create the anxiety or the level of panic.
Sure.
Like the track alone, it's got the hits, but it needs that overlay too to make you feel like, oh man, this isn't a good place to be right now.
All right.
And honestly, I kind of like when games do that too. There's something to be said about a track that feels foreboding, but you don't know quite what you're in for, or what you're gonna walk into. And then when the actual hammer falls, like, oh crap, this is the perfect combination to make me feel stressed out. I gotta get out of here. But yeah, this is a good choice of track. And I have to say I agree though. Harmony of Dissonance, the music in that game was so weird to me. Even after coming off of Circle of the Moon, it sounded, I don't know, like almost experimental in that sense for like what you're used to. Like I picked a track from Harmony of Dissonance on a previous episode of the show, and even then I was like, I had to really dig for it. In fact, that was when I had the other screen crack that I told you about for the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, that's when I cracked.
Yeah, it happened when I was playing that game for that episode. I was like, put it in my pocket, crack.
So my wife's been having some issues with her phone cracking, so I got some covers to put them on, and those are cracking now too. So what's happening is that she's putting them into her bag and then putting her keys on top and then taking them somewhere.
Wait, is that what was causing it to happen?
Causing it to happen, yeah. So maybe like you have like pockets full of quarters, you know.
No, quarters. It's supposed to be keys. All my quarters are at home now.
But you used to carry a lot of quarters.
Will wreck your screen.
I'm imagining the Game Boy Advance, like, era of Purnell walking around with all like crazy amounts of change.
Actually, that was a weird era in my life. So fun fact, because Rob knew that, but you didn't know this, Michael. So
go on.
There was a period where it's already well known I have a lot of quarters, like a stupid amount of quarters. But there was one moment in time, we're talking maybe era circa 2003 or so, where I had this really big coat. And I don't even know why I started doing this, but I would just put the quarters in the two large pockets on the side, and I would just make it, try to fill it as much as possible and walk around with like a weighted coat.
If you collected change from something, you just put it in your coat, and then you just kept collecting more and more change.
And the running joke became that if someone tried to mug me on the street, I could just like do like this weird spin, and the coat would fan out and smack him with this weighted pocket of quarters. And then eventually the coat gave way to the weight of the coins and burst. The pocket actually burst.
It could stop a bullet. It could absolutely. It was like chain mail.
If you were to ask me today, why did you do that? The best guess I could give you is one of two things. One, I just want to see if it can work. And two, it's almost like a type of exercise, like walking around with chainmail all day.
Yeah, it was like having like a weighted backpack.
Yeah, I can imagine you jingling around the streets.
I jangle.
Looking for an arcade to set you free.
Save me!
I know. I'm like, come on, we can spend all this right now for now. All right. Well, actually, not. It got to the point where it was too much, but
it really did
pretty quickly. All right, so we're going to turn the track down, and we're going to get into the part of our show that we call the bonus round.
Jingle jangle, bonus round.
The bonus round is the part of our show where we play covers and remixes and arrangements on our theme, and it's always a little interesting when our theme is like a full-on, game console. So I guess we're going to be picking arrangements and covers based on games mainly featured for this console. At least that's what I did anyway. So, Michael, what you got for us?
I believe that's more or less what I've done as well, actually, Rob. And I've already mentioned this game earlier in the episode. I'm going back to Metroid Fusion, which is it's definitely among my favorite Game Boy Advance games. And I've picked a cover version by a band called Metroid Metal, who did a really good cover of Sector 1, which is... It's kind of, it's the music that plays in the SRX section of Metroid Fusion, which is like a reproduction of the Metroid's home planet, SR388.
Yeah.
And it also doubles up as the music for the game's prologue, where it explains like Samus getting ambushed by a malignant force and needs to be injected with Metroids or something crazy like that in order to survive. So it's a really dark piece, actually. Anyway, hope you like it. This is Sector 1, performed by Metroid Metal, released on the album Other Album. See what they did there in 2014.
right, we're back. That was Sector 1 from Metroid Fusion, performed by Metroid Metal, the supergroup of Metroid Metal, which contains Stemage and some Chunk Style. Was that his name? Chunk Style?
Chunk Style, wow.
Yeah, his name is Dan
That's a
Taylor.
great name.
And yeah, it's just really cool. So it's Danimal, Arm Cannon Danimal, which is
Danimal Cannon.
Yeah, Danimal Cannon. I'm trying to get all because like the people kind of come in and out of this thing, but it's incredible. Like they're just really great guitarists and drummers, and they get together and just melt faces. Like they just blow the place up.
And they're just legit friendly too. That's the best part about it.
Yeah, they're just like the deep, dark, heavy guitar, and they're just the nicest people. They're just so friendly.
That's often how it goes. It is funny, yeah.
All right, so Pernell,
Maybe that's why they're so friendly. It's because they rock all the frustration out.
Yeah. They it's all cathartic.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, Pernell, what's your bonus round track?
So I ended up going in that direction where I wanted to pick a track specifically from a game. And I went digging, and I came across a composer that was originally recommended to us from one of our listeners from a Patreon episode. But this time, I'm choosing the track from that composer, and I am glad to do it because this is a gem. This track is a piano cover of the ACDC Town theme from the Megaman Battle Network series, most specifically the first game. This is composed by InsaneintheRainMusic. Hopefully you enjoyed that lovely piano rendition of AC/DC Town from Mega Man Battle Network, composed by InsaneintheRainMusic. That
Insane in the Rain!
God. I love that track very much. I'll freely admit that I'm a sucker for piano. So when someone does a good job utilizing said piano, we'll just butter my grits and call me Sunday breakfast because I'm melting.
It's nice. It was a very buttery track for now.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked it. You're like, this is a piano track, and then all I hear is bass and drums. I'm like, okay.
Where is it?
It's a nice piano track for now. Maybe I could pick the wrong track. Maybe
one of those new age pianos.
Maybe it's my fault. No. All right. All right. So the track I picked is also a little jazzy. In fact, it is jazz. This is
what?
I'm playing jazz music. Jazz music. This is jazz music. This is from Advance Wars 2, Black Hole Rising. This is Sensei's theme, and this is performed by the Consoles.
Oh, the walking.
You just listened to Sensei's theme from Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising from the consoles.
They never fail to impress with their sounds of merriment and bespectlement. Yes, I don't think that. I totally flew that
absolutely. Now, do you mind me talking about your dancing prowess, Michael?
I don't know about prowess, but
it's got to be better than us.
I had a really good feeling about that tune, certainly, and it did get me thinking. I'd like to dance to that. I've got a little bit of background in learning like Lindy Hop and stuff like that.
That's cool.
A little bit of background. I'm not an expert by any stretch, but it's been a minute since I last did it, so I'd like to. This sort of tune would get me moving,
sir.
Yeah, it's got that rhythm to it.
You are no longer Michael Bridgewater. You are now Count Michael Lightfoot.
Lightfoot.
Yeah, why not? I can be a count.
Well, for more information on the bonus round part of our show, go to rhythmandpixels.com. We'll have links to Bandcamps and SoundClouds and everywhere where you can go and find the music, buy the music, and support the artists. All right, thanks for joining us on episode 20-5 of Rhythm and Pixels. Our look at the Game Boy Advance, and also our look at Michael Bridgewater, the Count of the Lindy Hop.
Game Boy Advance is a great system, man.
Yeah.
Like it's got a very deep software library and a lot of very interesting and unique compositions on there. So, I'm probably going to find myself considering doing another episode dedicated to it myself. It's a very interesting system. So,
bring it out. Because honestly, if you do, I'm going to be ears to the ground listening to it.
Yeah, I always get excited when one of your new podcasts shows up on my feed because it's like, all right, cool. I mean, a lot of your episodes. So we're talking about the Forever Sound Version podcast, and we'll have links to it on our show notes on the podcast and on the website. But like, I think back to when I first heard like your Wu-Tang Clan focused episode, and then Robotron X. You did like a whole little DJ mix with all the music with that, and with Miami.
Hotline Miami.
Hotline Miami, yeah, and it's just
I love that game.
It's just really great to listen to people who are really passionate about the game. One, passionate about the music, but then just like It's a completely different format than you would expect, and it's really refreshing.
And it
really
doesn't
good.
hurt that I stand by the belief that you, sir, have the best voice in the VGM podcasting scene.
Yeah, I think we have the two best voices right here. You got the deep, soulful
Uh,
Pernell.
Yeah. And then the squeaky count.
There's no squeak. There's no squeak.
Squeaky Count Michael.
Here I am, squeaking away. Oh, thank you very much for the kind words, though. Yeah, as it happens, I am working on another episode of Forever Sound version right now. Because life is wild, I have had to knock the schedule down to size a bit in recent months, but I am trying to make it a monthly thing. So, yeah, at the moment I'm working on an episode dedicated to kart racing games, and there are lots of them, and some of them are really weird and gimmicky, stuff like Doraemon Kart and Chocobo Racing, you know, that kind of thing.
Well,
so,
this track
look
that's
out for
playing,
that.
this track that's playing right now could be on that episode.
Oh, that's right. We're listening to the Konami Kart Racers or something.
Konami Crazy Racers.
Konami Crazy Racers on the Game Boy Advance, which is a great example of using the Game Boy Color sound hardware on the system. So,
And I
I wonder if there was a reason for it. Maybe they just thought it would be a fun,
Yeah, just a cool sound.
cool sound. Yeah.
I honestly regret selling this game. I bought it on launch and then sold it. It was like, oh, Mario Kart's out, the true Kart King. I don't need Konami Crazy Racers anymore. Now
No.
I'm wishing I had it still.
I was so jealous of my friends who had a Super Nintendo to play Mario Kart that on my old school PC, I was looking for any kind of like knockoff Mario Kart game that I could play. And there's a ton of them. There's a whole lot of knockoff.
Oh, so did you
like
find the
style.
game
Oh,
where
yeah.
it was circles, like rolling around another
No.
circle?
It's called like Crazy Racers or Crazy Animal Racers, and it's like penguins and lions, and it's really bad, and it doesn't work very well. It's pretty lame. But
Zootopia Racer.
I quickly learned also that I never wanted to play it single player. I only wanted to play it with friends, and on my PC it was just me and my younger sister, who was not really into playing kart racing games. So, oh well.
I think the amazing thing also about kart racing when you lay it down. Funny, we're talking about kart racing, now, but like I feel like for all the kart racing games that have come out over the years, though they are still fun, they haven't gotten old at all to me. I don't feel like they've really done a ton of innovation. Like I want to say that the biggest innovation, and it doesn't get used nearly enough, is probably Sonic Racing Transform. To me, because that one was the one where you're kart racing, and now you're at a plane, and now you're underwater, and you just transition naturally, and the track changes as you drive.
Yeah, it is like a cartoony, arcadey version of a racing game, but I feel like over the years they've just been refining it. You know, especially with the
Yeah,
Mario
that's
Kart
fair.
series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing. I mean, it's always fun.
Oh, for sure.
Like
Yeah.
last year, my whole family got together down at the beach, and we rented a house for the week. And at night, we just played Mario Kart in the house because it was just on the Switch, and it was so much fun.
Yeah, Mario Kart's the great leveler as well, because you don't even have to be a quote-unquote gamer to get into it and even have a chance of winning because of all the wild power-ups and stuff.
Oh yeah,
I was wondering if either of you have seen or played. There's a VR version of Mario Kart, right?
Unfortunately not, which makes me
yeah.
kind of sad, too, because there was a period where they actually were demoing it at one place in the entire United States.
I was in DC, right?
And it was in D.C.,
Yeah.
which meant it was
Okay.
a matter of just getting in a car and driving a couple hours and checking it out. But it wasn't even in an arcade. It was at the center of Union Station, which is a heavily trafficked mass transit hub. There we go. I'm so out of it.
I guess it's like they would have art installations. They were just showing off new technology and stuff too.
Ah,
Yeah.
I see.
I regret not making it down for that, just because I think it would have been pretty cool
Yeah.
to check it out. I think at the time also I had a friend who used to live down that way, but he had moved the summer before they installed the exhibit. I was like, if you were there just a little longer, we could have all waited because of the big party. But
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Oh well.
Yeah. So, did you guys ever play that game? No, that would have been cool. Moving on. Did you ever get a chance to check it out or no?
No, not at all. No, I mean, I was in Tokyo last year. Well, getting on for this time last year, and that was the first time I'd seen Mario Kart in an arcade environment. Actually, I always thought of it as a like console title, which of course it is, but I didn't realize it was in arcades. And I saw I went to quite a few arcades that had a version of Mario Kart in there, and it functioned perfectly fine as an arcade title, which came as no real surprise. But
Right, yeah.
it was didn't expect to see it.
Yeah, I feel like the only thing it was lacking, because like I've played the arcade one a bit. Only thing it was
They have
lacking.
one. They have one up here at our the Round 1 arcade near us.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. It just needs shortcuts. Like Mario Kart to me is like you find shortcuts on the track, and you always feel good to find them, and I gotta hit this hop in just the right way so I can go down this back alley in this level. But now, like the arcade one, it's just here's a straightaway, another straightaway. There's no real like track exploration,
which is interesting because a lot of arcade racing games had a lot of shortcuts, like San Francisco Rush.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
all about the shortcuts.
Yeah,
things like
Yes.
that.
Great shortcuts.
Yeah,
too.
like you would play against random people, and they'd be like, "How did he finish the race already?" You know?
Oh, he found a way to drive through the office building.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or cut across like an ocean. Anyway, if you would like to also get in contact with us, if you'd like to talk about kart racing and green shells and red shells and all the shells, please send us an email.
Well, listen to the Forever Salvaged episode that's coming.
Yeah.
But also write to
Eventually.
rhythmandpixels@hotmail.com.
Say hi to us while we answer everything that comes in there, even all the spam, which we get a lot of spam. If you would like more information about our show, track listings from all of our episodes, and access to all of our episodes and everything that we're doing, all of the game reviews that Pernell's written for Hey Port Player, and
So lately, I haven't had as much time to do it anymore because I'm too many written, verbal reviews.
yeah, you're on the podcast train. But if you want access to all of that, go to
www.rhythmandpixels.com.
that's good.
Van Johnson, good.
That's hit all of the W's on that.
Wily World.
And you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. It's Rhythm and Pixels, all one word. We have a little group on Facebook called Rhythm and Pixels Chat. There's also the VGN Podcast Fans Chat because there's quite a few video game music podcasts out there that have been doing it about as long as we have and way better than we have, I would say.
Hey, no,
Yeah.
we're kind of
We're middling. Is where we're
we're up there.
I would have you down as my favorite podcast, I
Aw.
would say, for what it's worth. It's a friendly voice every week. It's brilliant. So
your check's
keep
in the
doing
mail.
it.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you very much.
That's
I only
very
accept
appreciated.
Bitcoin, though.
Dogecoin.
Dogecoin. But yeah, also go to youtube.com/rhythmandpixels. There we're uploading. All of the episodes are there. We also have a 24/7 radio station of 8-bit and 16-bit classics and deep cuts that's playing on there when my power is on and not completely blown away. And if you like to support the show, you can hit subscribe or review it on iTunes or Apple Music or whatever it's called now.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell your friends.
Tell your enemies.
Halloween's coming. Tell those kids about the show.
Just stick it in their bags.
In fact,
Yeah.
if you're going to a party, you can dress as me and Pernell. You can dress as me and Pernell at the same time.
That would be scary,
Yeah.
but also very Garbage Pail-esque. I approve.
Yeah, it would be crazy. You can also go to patreon.com/rhythmandpixels, and you can support us that way. You get access to a live streamed recording of our episodes once a month, and we also like to give you a thank you at the end of every episode. So we'd like to thank that Nick Walker.
New patron, excuse me?
No, that was too much saliva in my mouth. I don't want to ruin people's names.
That's a really long name.
We'll start with too much saliva in my mouth, Nick Walker. Mike Myers. Hi, Mike. I really appreciate everything you're doing for us, which is sending us money. Well, to thank Phantom Jest, Steve Miller, The Autistic Gamer 89, Cameron Worma, Christopher Shenstrom, Bobby Arson from One Up Funk, Wicked Sephiroth, OK Impala, Carlito, Kung Fu Carlito from the Heroes 3 podcast, Michael Bridgewater,
He's right here.
The Count
Yo.
from the Forever Sound Version podcast, Brian Pitt, Chris Murray, Ed Wilson from the VG Embassy. Is this the dude? No, it's not the dude. Who is this? Alexander Proudfoot, Davey Cakes, The Dude, The Last Rican, Bedroth, Jupiter Jazz, Sola Sanctuary, Damian Beckles, Joe Vassallo, Chris Steenerson, Alex the Messenger, patron saint of all VGM podcasts, and David Smith.
I just love that. He's like, crap, the name gets cut off. I got to improvise.
I know. Every week I'm like, why can't I see everyone's full name? It's okay. But thank you all so much for your support of the show. It means a lot to us.
Thank you for being awesome people in all seriousness. And remember, this is, I guess you'll still have a few days left, but spooky is the theme, live is the game.
Right. So in 2 weeks, we have our live streamed episode. If you'd like your tracks featured on the show, if you have any favorite spooky games, if you have any favorite spooky music, or if you have any favorite tracks from games that you thought were scary at the time,
there you go.
There you go. If someone like scared you while you were playing the game,
Barbie Horse Adventures, traumatizing.
I would like to hear about it. So send it our way. You can send it on Facebook. You can send it on over the email. Either way is fine. But anyway, thanks, Michael, for coming on the show. Is there anything else you wanted to plug while you're here?
Maybe I should mention the ordeal I'm putting myself through next month. What do you think?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, the last couple of years I've been doing this thing where I play a load of strange, funny, weird, and bad old video games for 24 hours and stream the whole thing to raise money for various human rights organizations. And this year I'm doing the same thing. It might be the last time I do it, we'll have to see, but on Saturday 9th of November of this year, I will be playing games from 9 a.m. until 9 a.m. the following Sunday. I've got some real howlers lined up already. Like
what are some highlights?
NSYNC Get to the Show on the Nintendo Game Boy Color for one. Just lots of nonsense, basically. And I'm raising money for a UK-based human rights organisation called Freedom from Torture, who are dedicated to the treatment and rehabilitation of torture survivors. Torture, unfortunately, continues to be a thing, incredibly. So they do some really good work in helping survivors of that. So if you want to help me out, you can go to justgiving.com/fundraising/weirdgames2019. That's 2019, and you can leave me, even like a couple of dollars, couple of pounds. It's tiny donations. They're all great. They're all very much appreciated. So, and you can tune in on the day and watch me on Twitch, getting increasingly more frazzled, like I did last year, right?
Yeah, tuning in towards the last 4 to 6 hours is one of the best decisions that you'll make in this year.
It's hysterical.
I wonder if I'll have any kind of goals throughout the stream, if we can get you to do anything silly or to drink anything suspect.
Do your worst.
Yeah, sure.
Do your worst.
But yeah, we'll look forward to that. We'll have links to that on the website and on the podcast as well.
Thank you.
Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us on the show. Rhythm and Pixels. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell.
Have a safe week.
And remember, life gets busy, we do a lot of things, have a good time, and sometimes we don't, but for the most part, we're constantly active. But in the midst of all that, it gets weirdly easy to lose track of family, I would say. If you don't live with your folks, you don't live with, close relatives or nearby, it's easy to just kind of get them lost in the shuffle. But if you can, and if they are people that you are close to still, try to make that extra bit of time to say hi to them. Say hi to your mom, your dad. Just catch up, see how you're doing, because time's not guaranteed. You don't know what time you've got. And honestly, put it to use while you can. It's just worth it.